Yes. All right, well, welcome everybody. This is the April edition of our ongoing series of chats with local authors. And so thank you all for being here on what was a lovely evening there for a brief few moments after the snow stopped. We are holding this series of events to get to know some of our regional, local authors a little better. Learn about their new projects and see how their ideas get from their heads onto the page and then into your hands. So before I start though, I do want to say a huge thank you to Save On Foods, who keeps us so well fed. They make these wonderful donations for these events. They've been a supporter since the beginning. So if you're in there, please say thank you for providing us with all the cheese and cookies and other goodies that they do. And those items do not walk over here by themselves. So big thanks to Chris and Carl, who do their due diligence and ferry all the goods over here so that we can enjoy them together. Thank you to the library for hosting, friends of the library for supporting us, and for all of you and the authors for all being here together tonight. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have been to one of these before? Oh, quite a few. Okay, and how many is the first time for you? All right, well, welcome, and I hope you come back. And to welcome back for those who are old-timers here and regulars. So quick comment for those of you who are new, how this goes. Generally speaking, I'll introduce each of our authors here tonight, who will then provide us with a super quick elevator pitch describing their work, and then I will launch into my interrogation, ask all the burning questions I've been dying to ask, and at the very end of the evening, you too will have a chance to ask your questions of these lovely writers. So hang on to your thoughts right until the end of the evening. We also have a book exchange table over at the side there. We would like that to be empty when we leave here tonight, so take something from the table, and if you have something in your bag you forgot to put out, you can throw that out there a little later. And we also have some books for sale up here and signing over the course of the evening as well. But before we now get started, I'm going to ask you all a question, which is this: how many of you have ever been told, oh, you know what, you should write a book? Has anybody ever said that? Okay, we are among friends. How many of you have ever said that to someone else? Okay. And how many of you actually thought, you know what, maybe I should write a book? Yeah, okay. So we all have stories, and many of those stories deserve to be shared. And every good story, and it doesn't matter if they're short, long, personal, fantastical, heavy-duty research, whatever it is, every story has a reader. So the three authors today that we have brought together have all found ways to share their very different stories. So tonight is perfect for anyone here who also wants to learn, yes, not just about these writers and their particular stories, but also about our options that are available to us today. If you have something in your mind, a story that you would like to share with the world, turns out there is more than one way to skin that proverbial writing cat. So stay tuned. We're going to cover some really cool territory tonight for anybody who's ever thought that this might be a possibility for you. So tonight, to my left, dyslexic moment there, we have, for the first time actually, a writer, editor, and publisher who brings a wealth of experience to the table in the form of magazine writing. Erin Moroz is a freelance writer, editor, and publisher, and her work has appeared in major daily newspapers. She also co-founded the mountain culture magazine Highline. Do you remember Highline? Yeah. Right here in Canmore, the town she still calls home. She's currently the editor of the mountain culture magazine, Mountain Life, Rocky Mountains. So for anyone not familiar with Mountain Life, can you give us the high-level description of the magazine's purpose, raison d'etre, your elevator pitch basically for the magazine?
Certainly. Can I read it off a sheet?
Read it.
I took some notes and thought I wouldn't need to read off a sheet, but time went away for me. So we at Mountain Life Rocky Mountains, we like to tell the stories of people that live in the mountains or near the mountains or have made their lives in the mountains. I think a lot of time, sorry, this is getting away from me already. Do you want me to just read them?
We do the whole evening. I will come back to you. You have 90 seconds.
Okay, at Mountain Life Rocky Mountains, yes. At Mountain Life Rocky Mountains, we tell the real stories of lives lived close to the wild, celebrating the people, places, and moments that make the mountains feel like home.
Bravo. Okay. All right.
You really reined it in there.
You did. We will have a chance to dig in. And so I'm going to ask you to pass the mic all the way down there to Kathy. Kathleen Pointen is an author and a songwriter, fourth-generation Calgarian who lives with her husband, Vern, who's right here in the front row, on a small ranch west of Calgary with strong ties to the Bow Valley. We met years ago at a writing workshop that I was leading here in town. She's a founding member, as it turns out, of Writers on Fire, another writing group that we're involved with. And she fills her time with family, writing, paint, crafts, and loves to write poetry and songs. And the book she's going to be talking about tonight is this one, The Blue Stone, which is her first novel, which actually was inspired by a writing prompt that was write about magic, a scene that involved magic without ever using the word magic. Now, most people, when confronted with a prompt like that, come up with 2 or 3 paragraphs. Well, Kathy didn't stop. She just kept writing until she got to the end of this book, The Blue Stone. So, Kathy, give us your best elevator pitch and tell us what this book is about in 90 seconds or less.
If anyone had ever told me I would be writing a book like this, I wouldn't have believed it. It is fantasy. It is fairy tale. I like to think it's more fairy tale. And I think it would appeal to a wide range, mostly female, I think. Although I hear there is a young man who's read it 4 times and loves it. That's all. Is that enough?
That's a teaser. We will come back to you, though, and dig a little deeper into what's buried within the pages of The Blue Stone.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Louise, our next author tonight is Louise Green, author, blogger, and cabin builder. She's always been a writer, journaling, short fiction, technical manuals, training courses, website content. She lives in Canmore and now focuses on writing about her adventures in the woods of British Columbia. Her debut book is this one, Little Haven in the Woods, a memoir about realizing her lifelong dream to own land and then the challenging adventures involved with turning that land into a home. So Louise, give us your elevator pitch and a sense of where this story begins and ends.
Thank you. I decided to start writing this because there are so many people out there, you have a dream and you don't think it's possible to achieve, and it kind of took me 20 or 30 years to achieve it, and so I wanted to inspire people that they can also follow their dreams, and you really only have to have a belief, determination that you're not going to give up, and somehow you can get what you desire. So the story starts with that search for land, which was my dream, to own a small property, and then knowing nothing about construction or buying land or anything, the trials and tribulations of turning that into something that is somewhere, as my little dream in the woods. So that is the story. This book finishes about halfway. There is another story coming to finish it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Many people, actually, when they sit down to start writing and sharing their stories, they begin with shorter forms, except for Kathleen over there, who launched right in with a prompt and ended up with the book. But many of the rest of us begin with magazine stories or blog posts or shorter pieces. So let's have a look at a typical magazine. You're very familiar with this format. And tell us about the different lengths that are common in a traditional magazine format.
Okay.
Microphone?
Oh, right. Let me think about that. I mean, we have, if you guys are familiar with Mountain Life at all, we have some submissions that are only 100 words long that might accompany or explain a photo. We have featurettes that can be about 500 words long, which would be like a page plus a photo. A full-length features for us is usually about 2,500 words, but I'm sure if some of you read like The Economist or Vanity Fair, things like that, their features are quite a bit longer than that. yeah, that's probably about it for us, actually. And, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you answered it perfectly because without prompting, you mentioned those word counts. And of course, if you're writing for magazines or newspapers, the column inches and the word counts, they're pretty rigid. You know, if you're writing a 100-word piece, you're not turning in a 1,000-word piece, or you're going to get 900 of your precious words cut and tossed. Right, so this is very typical for shorter forms, and even though, as Erin says, the different magazines will have different ranges from super short 75-word pieces to 5, 6, 7,000 word features, the idea is the same, right? You're writing to a very tight word count, and research your markets carefully is a sub-message here. So I have a question for each of our other two authors, super quick. Do you know the word count of your books?
I did when I was writing it. I think it's around 50,000 words.
That feels about right. Okay. And Kathy, do you know the word count of yours?
Mine is right around 32,000.
32,000. Chris, I know you've done a book recently. What do you remember the word count on yours?
Oh my gosh.
I think yours is probably a bit longer. I've got yours here too. This is Chris's book, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet.
I think I might guess wrong. Could you just open the last page?
Well, that'll give us a page count, but it won't give us a word count.
Oh,
So that's okay. If you don't remember off the top of your head, it's been a bit since that came out.
it's lots.
Yeah, it was like, this is the big fat hefty tome here, but the point here being is that back in the day, we used to have very tight word counts for different genres of books as well. And the reason was, back in the day, and this has fortunately loosened up a little bit because of our changes in technology, but back in the day, and I brought this relic, which I found buried in the back of my office, books were printed on offset printing presses on huge sheets of paper, like that. So that represents 32 pages of, in this case, this is a juvenile novel, and this is a signature. So signatures are just not just what the authors produce at the side table they're in. So these signatures were then folded up. And of course, 32 pages, not long enough for a novel, so you'd have this big stack of signatures, which were all put into a signature gluing together machine, you know, whatever that was called, and then wrapped around the outside of the signature gluing the stacks of signatures together, you'd have a cover. And this still looks very much the same today, actually. The covers are printed on cover stock, sometimes glossy, sometimes not. And then that mess is all glued together, and you wind up with then a book that goes into the trimming machine, cuts off all that excess white stuff and the folded bits, and then you would produce a book like this. And this is why back in the day the books were always multiples of 32 pages long, because they were produced that way. These days, not the case anymore. So Louise, I think you published through Amazon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have different restrictions, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I used KDP as it's called, which is the Amazon printing self-publishing method. They have you start off with picking the size of the format. So either 9x8, I think this is 9x6, and then they really don't restrict you at all on the number of pages and number of words or anything. It's really whatever you want it to be.
Exactly, and this is a huge change from back in the day, which wasn't even that long ago, but where we were just as restricted as with magazines to page count and length and format and so on. Nowadays we've got a huge amount of flexibility, and if you go to YouTube and you search for Amazon print on demand process, somebody's done a fabulous little 10-minute tour of these massive machines that print one single book at a time. Because of course, back in the day, economies of scale, you were looking at print runs of 2,500, 5,000, 10,000 books in order to keep the price of printing to something vaguely reasonable. We no longer have those restrictions. Oh, just to finish this thing actually, the stacks of signatures, you hope that when the books are all bound, so here's an example of one, where in the signature sorting and stacking process, they got to this point in the book and then found the next signature in upside down. So you've got 32 pages that you have to flip upside down, read backwards from the, until you... Anyway, hazards like this when the person is a little punched drunk floating the signature machine. This doesn't happen anymore. It's all done with coordinated barcodes and super clever, and they drop it into bins and it's all sorted and double checked and whatnot. And it has opened up possibilities for production that we never had in the past. Now, Kathy has done hers slightly differently. So Kathy's production process is a hybrid. So she worked with a company called Friesens, and they are sort of the in-between of what I used to do early days working with a traditional publisher and contemporary publishing models. So Kathy, in a nutshell, tell us what your process was for getting this book actually made into a book.
All right. I went through this whole prompt. I followed the prompt. I followed the words, and they just kept taking me around all these wild rides and corners. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'm done. I'm going to publish this. Was I 70-something years old at the time? I thought I don't have time to wait. And I don't want this to sit on somebody's desk for 2 years while they might read it, and then they might not even like it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. The mistake I made was sending it in before it was edited. So you pay for a whole year of Friesens' help, and they are so helpful. I think Chris will tell you too. They're really helpful. But after a year, I still wasn't done, so I had to keep paying every month $100 US. While I went through it again and again and again and again, I never had written a book. I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, finally I was satisfied with it. And I would publish that way again, except I would make sure my book was finished first.
Probably wise, yes, generally.
Yes.
But the big difference, I think, between, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Louise, you were largely responsible for the process, right, of getting it and then pushing print, but instead of printing to your desk, it prints to Amazon's amazing machines. And Kathy, or Kathleen, sorry, I know you as Kathy, on the book it's Kathleen. There's editorial support, design support, layout support, all the steps, and the difference between Kathleen's model and the traditional model is who pays for it all. So in your hybrid model, the author's paying for all of those different steps, design, production, editing, and so on. In a traditional publishing model, the publishing company pays for all of that. And the difference on the back end is when Kathy sells a book, she keeps the money. And when my publisher sells the book, they send me a pittance of what they make. So, it's a trade-off. Do you want to do all the work yourself and pay for it up front? Or do you want to, let somebody else do that and then make a lot less in the long run? So there are 3 different models represented here tonight of publishing books that all look the same. They're all books, go on the shelf, but very different paths to getting those stories out there. Back to magazines though, where this all began, and assuming that some of you at least are going to want to start there or have ideas noodling around in your heads that might be suitable for a magazine, tell us what your idea is, Erin, of a really great magazine article. And you can either be general on this one or specific to Mountain Life, since you are a publisher of Mountain Life.
I will think through the lens of Mountain Life, since that's what I'm the most familiar with. We are looking for articles that are, we had a lot of pitches. Hey, I climbed this mountain in this place, and what's the story though? Did something unusual happen, or is there something unusual about the fact that you were able to climb this mountain? We're looking for the personality and the color, not just a retelling of events. For us, a good story has to be accompanied by photos, so that's always something. If someone pitches us something, that's the first thing I ask, okay, who's doing the photos? Do you have a professional photographer? Did you take the photos? Are you any good at it? Character, you need to care about the characters in the story and something that ties it to a place that our audience is, Rocky Mountains, people that live in the Rockies, that ties it to a sense of place for people as well. Yeah, just I think the key though is something out of the ordinary, not just a timeline. We get a lot of those articles. Yeah.
So this is interesting. It's almost the identical set of requirements, good setting, plot, character, pacing, that for any piece of writing, whether you're writing something short for a magazine or a novel or a memoir, you need those elements, you know, the overarching story. What is the point of this? So some conflict is always helpful. And those elements you'll find in pretty much every piece of good writing. The really excellent pieces, I would add theme in there, that you've got some underlying something that makes you think about the world a little differently. That's the brass ring. Not every piece has all of those, but that's kind of what we should be striving for, I think, as writers. This really makes the stuff leap off the page and drags the reader in there. Kathy, you started with you need to pass the mic back there. You started with this really modest assignment, write the scene, involves magic, don't use the word magic. And I know that scene, a variation, an edited version, wound up in the book. Can you read the scene for us? Give us a little taste here. These strange things that happened to around my grandma, which I think is very similar to where you began this whole project.
Yes, I'll just set it up a little bit. Jane and her mom have come to stay for the summer with the grandma that Jane never even knew she had. So she gets to spend a lot of time with her grandma. All right. Strange things happen around my grandma. On one of our long walks, we passed by an abandoned lot surrounded by a bent and twisted wire fence. We stopped to look at the garbage and broken playground equipment, my grandma with her hands on her hips. The ground was littered with bits of brown and green glass, and plastic bags were cut up in the tangles of the trees. Speaking quite softly, she said, "There is beauty to be found in every corner of the world." She looked down at me with her bright blue eyes. "Don't you agree, dear heart?" Raising one hand, she waved it gracefully from side to side over the ruined park, while in the other, she held the blue stone tightly. Blue light glowed through her fingers, and her eyes suddenly flashed like lightning. I couldn't see anything beautiful about that broken down park, but speechless, I nodded. Grandmother tossed her head back and laughed her musical laugh, which made me think of the bluebells in her garden and how they quivered when we walked past them. "Now you try it, Janie. Stamp your feet and tell the garden about all the beauty in the world." Obediently, I copied her, and I remember a great shiver running up and down my back and a tingling through my whole body that caused me to laugh and cry at the same time. My grandma put her arms around me and held me tight, and I felt the weight of my grief fly away like a little bird. Part 2.
Actually,
here
that's
it is.
okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, leave that there, because that is a
Okay.
magical moment. We're going to come back to the next piece. So this magic that is woven throughout this entire story is not the abracadabra, wand-waving kind of magic of Harry Potter. How would you describe this flavor of magic that you've infused throughout this story?
I would describe it as the ability that we all have to spread beauty in the world and to spread light. And this is just a little bit more extraordinary than that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take. A little bit of magical realism. It's a little bit of fairy tale. It's very cool. I've never actually read anything quite like what Kathy's come up with. So very cool. Now, magic comes in all forms, and I'm looking at you, Louise, because your book is about another kind of magic, which is taking a blank canvas, a patch of dirt with some ferns and trees, and transforming it. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of your journey as you write it is the way you describe your interaction and relationship with the land itself, this 5 acres. Can you describe a bit of the decision-making process, how you decide where to put what as you begin to make this transformation from raw land to home, which is a magical concept all on its own?
Yeah, it was actually very hard to start that, because normally if you buy a house or land, it's already got structure, it's got buildings, it's got power or water somewhere, so you're kind of restricted. But this was a piece of raw forest, it had nothing on it at all, so we had no you know, things to help us decide. So I spent a lot of time just walking around, sitting and just really feeling the land, I guess, to think about what it would look like if we remove trees. I mean, one of my biggest desires was to remove as few trees as possible, so I had to try and fit things in without cutting any trees down. And you know, every little sapling I want to like move it and rescue it and save it. So it was very much, it took a long time of just sitting and wandering and thinking of what, you know, how it felt and how it looked. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, but it's an unusual process that most of us have never had to have that experience, to start with nothing and to create something of that. And the book really does a wonderful job of allowing us to follow your process, which at times is quite emotional, as you try to make the right decisions for yourself, but also for the land. It's really quite moving and quite remarkable. Having too many choices can be just as much a problem as not having any choices. So yes, over to Erin. There is a segue in progress here. Yeah. So 2-part question. I want you to put your writing hat on now. As a freelancer, you have a world of subjects to choose from. So how do you decide where to focus your attention, what subjects to choose, what to write about?
Honestly, I usually write from life. So a lot of my content are things I want to write about or experiences I'm having, and then I tend to seek those out in wild places, in the mountains, near the ocean. I did find when we were doing Highline magazine back in the day, I remember thinking like, oh, this is becoming, what I love is becoming my work, and I didn't want that to happen, right? I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with that. So that actually made me take a step towards leaving Highline magazine. But now, at a different stage in life, I feel really like honored or really fortunate to be able to pursue adventures that I want to pursue and turn it into work. To be able to write about it and enjoy the process and get paid to do what I love, actually, sometimes.
Right.
A little bit.
Bonus. So when you talk about adventure outdoors, do you have a particular focus or activity that you enjoy, or how do you make more destinations that you like?
For sure. Last year I was in Costa Rica trying to turn that into a story. That didn't end up happening. Actually, it was a little flying by the seat of my pants. I was fortunate to just get sent to Peru by the magazine to write about that. So, and like trekking's not my thing. It's not something I don't normally hike that much, but I think things that challenge you, right? Like you discover so much about yourself when you're outside, and like walking to Machu Picchu is not necessarily a difficult thing, but in the day-to-day, like depending if your feet are sore, you're tired, or it's pouring rain, like it brings out different elements of your personality and the people you're with. I enjoy, like I went on that trip with 6 total strangers, and it was so interesting to get to know them throughout the week. So I can't remember what you asked exactly now.
That's okay. So it's a bit of a combination of happenstance and
Yeah.
sort of directing the happenstance
Right.
and then
Totally.
writing about that.
I try to, if I'm gonna go on an adventure, I think like, can I turn this into a story?
Has that got any easier over the years? You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think I just understand the process a bit different. Like if I'm pitching an article to somebody, now I can just tell the publishers I want to write about something, which is lovely. Yeah, definitely has been gotten easier.
Okay, so speaking of pitching, so let's say we've got people in this room who are not necessarily going to pitch to Mountain Life, but any great sources for places where you would go to submit your articles, stories, poems, short stories, whatever it is that you have in your heart that you want to share?
Oh, you're asking me that.
I can ask you, I have some answers
I
too.
would Google something.
Google is our friend.
When I
yes,
was trying
yes.
to research, when I was in Costa Rica, I was on a surf and yoga adventure, which was, I mean, probably the best holiday of my life, quite honestly. I knew nothing about that kind of travel writing, like travel writing for like, kind of like a eco-boutique experience. So I just looked and put together a list of popular like travel magazines who might fit that genre.
So Google's definitely helpful, for sure. Your magazine rack, which is shrinking by the week here, but they do still exist. Go study the magazines and actually like analyze them to death. Have a look at the masthead, do the word count.
That's what I should have said.
Well, that's okay. I'm saying what you meant to say. But if you want to, so that's one strategy. Definitely go do your homework. Check out the magazine rack here at the library and break the magazines down. Submittable.com is a wonderful resource and very wide-ranging, so including poetry, literary fiction, short pieces, all genres, and more mainstream fiction as well, and competitions for chapbooks and book-length publishers, whatever. It's a free website to sign up for, and then you have to spend some time doing some scrolling and searching. Substack.com has a couple of accumulators of material. Do a little search in Substack and they provide a weekly or monthly newsletter subscription that will give you all sorts of opportunities for publishing. So if you're looking for places to send your stuff once you've decided what you want to write about, there's all kinds of resources out there that you no longer have to go to the Writer's Digest book of markets, thank goodness, which was out of date the minute it hit the press. Anyway, so just an aside for any of you who are looking at publishing shorter pieces, lots of opportunities out there. Kathy and Louise, both of you have written books, as it turns out. So Louise, you've got the mic, you can go first. That end before the story's finished. So when you started your projects, they both feel like they should have sequels. You've both alluded to the fact you're not done with writing, but when you started, were you thinking of multiple books and sequels and series?
No. I actually didn't really think very much when I started. I just started writing. It was a journal, basically, of the process and a diary that sort of felt like it turned into quite a saga and an adventure, and it felt worthwhile writing. But I didn't realize how long everything was going to take to do, not the writing, but the story itself is not really even finished yet. So I felt like if I left it too long, then I would not remember and I would not be able to put enough detail into what I was writing. So it naturally broke itself up into years, 2 years of, the first book is 2 years, and then I have now almost another 2 years of notes to write the second one. So it just circumstantially came out as a sequel to that.
And are you working on the sequel now? Are you actually on?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's a very much first draft right now.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Kathy, did you plan a sequel?
I didn't plan a sequel. I was actually real happy to have it over and done with. And then a good friend of mine said, you have to write a sequel. You've left a cliffhanger. What? And yes, she pointed out I had left a cliffhanger. And I couldn't think of anything for a second book for this. I felt that it was done. Before the end of the day, my muse had provided me with an entire beginning, middle, and end. I've tucked it away. I've written it all down, but I've tucked it away because I'm working on another project right now. Yeah.
Wow. All right, we'll come back to your other project at the end, in case you don't get off the hook here. You have to share that with us. Erin, back to you. When you're writing even a short article, there's often a lot of research that is involved, whether you're doing research or experiential research. Do you have any examples of times, this is a handy trick by the way, but do you have a good example of when you were able to recycle or repurpose research for one project and reuse it for something else?
Should have told me you were going to ask me this.
I was just thinking, maybe I should have prepared you.
Can I think about that?
You can think about that. Carol, Carol's sitting in the front here, she's been busily working on a book, but you've been repurposing your work, have you not?
Just a little bit. I'll
Can you pass the mic here to Carol? Sorry, Carol really wasn't prepared for this, but do tell Carol, what have you been working on and where else has it maybe wound up?
I'm writing the story of my great-grandmothers from 4 different countries. And so now and then I'll take a piece of something that's, well, like the one was all the people that were on the ship with my Ukrainian family. And I thought, well, other people who were on, or searching for their ancestors who might have been on that ship may not know where to go. It took me forever to find her. So I published that on Medium, and I've had a few people say, oh, I was so glad to find my great-grandmother or whatever. So yeah, I've done a little bit of that. I should do more, but just a little bit.
I know you're still working on the big project, which has morphed into a humongous project. For anybody who caught the word Medium but doesn't know what Medium is, that's a blogging platform which actually has some great engagement, very popular with authors. And I see Chris over there who wrote this book about her Ukrainian family and fictionalized it. But Chris, you're a great example of someone who took this raw research and then repurposed it for blog posts. Do you want to tell us about one of your more successful or ones that really found an audience?
I did a number of articles about the backstory of, I had a lot of content that didn't become part of the story because there was so much research done, but I did this query into a Facebook group about Ukrainian superstitions, and I really hit a marker with that one because I still have about 25 people a week reading that. And that was posted a couple of years ago.
Oh, interesting. And not just reading that, but they were contributing folklore and traditions and superstitions, which then Chris very cleverly repurposed into a blog post. So there's this lovely circular thing going on here, right? That the conversation continues.
So I was blogging maybe every couple of weeks, and every so often you'd get something that would be a ringer. But you have to keep doing a lot of blogging because it might surprise you what the ringer is.
Agree, yes. Like, weirdly enough, my all-time favorite blog post I ever did was from like 15 years ago. I still get hits on it. How to make pork skin dog treats. It's like random. I don't know why everybody wants to know. Anyway, just, yeah. So don't think that something trivial that you found along the way of researching your big epic novel or whatever is gone to waste just because you didn't squeeze it into some scene somewhere. It's all good fodder and you can use it somewhere else. That was really the point of that question that Erin didn't really answer.
I'm going to think about that this evening.
Okay, all right, let us know if something pops in your head here. Louise. All right, this is a little bit personal, Louise. But in this book, and you cannot miss it, you are very open about the differences of opinion between you and your husband, Dave, who is actually here. Sorry. When it comes to the question of how best do we deal with this big project we've taken on. And can you talk a little bit about the basic differences in your two approaches, which is really quite interesting, and why did you choose to include some of this quite personal discussion in a book about building cabins?
Dave, do you want to go out for just to give you a bit of background, the main differences are, this is my dream. You know, Dave was not really, it's not his interest at all. So I feel very lucky and grateful that he has supported me and come along with what we are doing, because I couldn't have done it without him. So I chose to include that because, to me, what I want to share in the story is that, you know, it's not all easy to do. Dreams are not easy. They don't all just happen with everything falling into place. Generally, they're hard work, and you have to persevere and be determined and not give up. And sometimes your doubts are so huge that, you know, you really wonder what on earth you're doing. So I wanted to share it because it allowed some of those doubts to be communicated in a more interesting way, rather than me just internal dialogue. You know, Dave was kind of that doubtful presence into whether what we were doing was good. And if anybody wants to do it, you know, hopefully it was inspiring that other people may follow their dreams, that, you know, you're going to face challenges, and how much do you want it? Are you going to give up, or are you going to keep going? So that was kind of the idea behind those interactions.
Did Dave know that he was going to be in the book the way he is?
No, or no.
He
I don't
does
know.
now.
He did
You read
read
the book, Dave.
He did read it.
Okay.
He read it throughout the production of first drafts and everything. So yes, he did know really that what was going to be there. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult balance, you know, to be truthful and honest, but not, you know, you don't want to be unfair to individuals either. So I tried to make it honest, but also explain both of our perspectives, you know, that, you know, whilst he wasn't really maybe totally on board, like, why should he be really? It wasn't his dream. So yeah, I was lucky that he's still here.
And here tonight, so thanks for everything. It is one of the great challenges, though, when you take on a work of memoir, because we don't exist in isolation, and memoir by definition involves relationships with others, many of whom are still with us, and who will probably read your book. And so there's always this tension between how do we get the essence of the story across without hurting those people we care most about. And sometimes, in dark memoirs, those people who have hurt us most deeply. So it's a really interesting challenge and dynamic, which, by the way, I think you handled very well in there. I found it really compelling and interesting and very real part of the story. You didn't whitewash any of that, but at the same time, it's not made to be salacious or anything awful. It's just is what it is. So I thought you did that really nicely, so good job. But let's hear a little bit from your book. Do you have a little piece there that you can share with us?
So before I start this, there's a saying that we're all familiar with, which is seeing is believing. But I sort of turn it around to say believing is seeing. And what I mean by that is, if you're open to opportunities, then quite often they appear to you. And for me, that was that first glimpse. I thought I saw something in the trees, and we almost missed it as we drove by. And so I want to share that part of the story with you when we first discovered the land. I thought I saw a sign pointing directly up at the tree. There it is. We looked at each other. I don't know. Dave was doubtful. It looks pretty old. And I had to agree, that sign looks like it had been there for years. Oh, you're probably right. But I'm going to take a closer look. I couldn't read it properly. The faded orange for sale sign had a handwritten telephone number. There was small writing below that I couldn't make out. I was curious about what they were selling. It might be just firewood. The sign said 5 acres for sale, with septic approval, water and hydro. It was an Alberta phone number, which spurred me into action. This could be what we're looking for. Maybe it was still for sale. But then again, no. It's probably old, perhaps sold like everything else was around there. It's Easter Sunday. You can't call today. Perhaps no one will answer. Thoughts whirled back and forth in my mind. Do it. Don't bother.
Do it.
I'm going to call it, I stated deliberately. I looked at my phone and amazingly I had cell signal at that spot. Mind made up, heart pounding, I dialed the number. Hello? A female voice inquired. Oh wow, somebody answered. I could hardly believe it. Hi, this is Louise. I saw your for sale sign on the land in BC. I hesitated, not wanting to hear her say, sorry, it's sold. Is it still for sale? I asked slowly. Why, yes it is, she answered. We are right here by the sign now. Would it be okay if we took a look around, had a walk around? I looked at Dave with difficulty, trying to stop the grin from splitting my face in two. I told him the price, and he raised his eyebrows in disbelief. I know, right? That seems a reasonable price. She said we could have a walk around, I said, taking his hand. Come on, let's go, look. There was a faint overgrown trail disappearing around a curve into the trees. Several fallen, rotting birch trunks lay broken across the path. Last year's brown ferns drooped under a pine, spruce and cedar canopy. A faint smell of mushrooms wafted up as our boots crushed the brown grass. The trees, left to their own devices, have become thick and crowded, ranging from 15 to 40 feet tall, growing wherever they wanted, interspersed with white birch standing proudly tall between the evergreens. The terrain was level, with no signs of fences or markers to designate the boundaries. I looked at Dave and shrugged. Where should we go? All we could hear was the drip of condensation from the trees. It was so still and so quiet. Several pockets of slushy snow still clung on to winter under the trees, but the ground was mainly bare and easy to walk. We strolled, saying nothing, each lost in our thoughts. I turned around and walked backward, trying to gauge how far we'd come. How big was 5 acres anyway? I couldn't picture how big an area it was. After about 15 minutes of wandering, the trees thinned and we came to a power line running perpendicular to our trail. There was a galvanized pipe sticking up out of the ground, covered with a white upturned bucket to our left. Dave removed the bucket and peered down the pipe. Do you think that's the well? Could be. I did not know what a well might look like. I had visions of a round stone wall with a little wooden roof over it and a handle to wind the bucket up and down. What do you think about the place? I asked Dave cautiously. I was already in love with it, had put in an offer to buy, had built a cabin and moved in here in my imagination. None of this crazy idea to look at the land had been Dave's idea. How was he feeling now? Well, he's not saying anything negative yet. This is a good sign, I thought. I could hardly stop myself from skipping back to the truck with excitement, my hands outstretched, brushing the ferns and caressing the leaves as we headed back. We stumbled upon a clearing with a pile of logs stacked against a tree and a circle of stones from an old campfire. Dave went to look at the wood pile. Someone must have camped here, but quite a long time ago, it looks like. It makes a nice camp spot. I walked over to join him, looking around. We could build a cozy cabin here.
Yes, one could. Just like that.
Yeah, that's it. Easy
Yeah.
said.
All right, well, that gives you just a sense of just the lovely rich detail in this. And you must have journaled as you were going through, yes?
Yes, I did. Not in the beginning. A lot of my early material was from emails back and forth during the process, and a lot of it was actually from photographs, because it's amazing how that, stirs the memory and brings back. And it was a very emotional time, so I did remember a lot of it, just really from the experience.
Right. Oh, interesting. So there you go. 3 tips right there. Photographs, journaling, and emotional moments. They tend to stick with us, so yeah. All right, Kathy, your book is called The Blue Stone. Where did this title come from, and what does that image, or what does blue stone mean to you?
I don't know where any of this came from. It was just all so serendipity. And it is definitely something I escaped into at a really difficult time in my life. And this book, the title just introduced itself. Someone gave me a little lapis lazuli blue heart. It just, all the characters, every time I needed a character name, it was just right there. When I needed a kind of a guardian angel person, Mr. Silverman came along, and he's wonderful. Everybody who reads calls me, that I know calls me and says, "Is that your dad? Is it your grandpa? Who is it?" Anyway, he is kind of an earth angel.
I was going to ask you about Mr. Silverman, because you forgot a letter on his name, because it's the Mr. Silverman's.
Well, they are multiple. So he is Mr. Silverman, but when they are multiple, they are all Mr. Silvermans.
And they're all identical, right?
They all wear identical uniforms, but up face they are of every tongue and tribe.
Okay, but they're all called Mr. Silverman.
Yes.
Yes, it's a fascinating. Why don't you read your Mr. Silverman?
Well, I was just going to
excerpt.
finish up this little part about the garden or the
Oh,
park.
sure.
The
Okay.
park.
Go ahead.
I hadn't given the broken garden another thought until a few days later. We were out walking our usual left, right, straight ahead, and we passed it without my noticing. Suddenly I realized where we were, and I ran back to look. The fence was gone, and tall evergreen trees surrounded the large sunny space. Bright red, blue, and yellow playground equipment stood invitingly. Wooden benches and picnic tables were waiting to be used. There were luscious bushes, flowers blooming, and blue butterflies everywhere, decorating the scene with their airborne dancing. A soft breeze carried a fragrant aroma into the air around me, and I breathed it in deeply. Grandmother came to stand beside me and leaned down and whispered, "Close your mouth, Jane, or you'll swallow a bug." I was speechless. Questions crowded my thoughts, and denial pushed against what I was seeing. What explanation could there be? I finally blurted out, "Grandma, did you do this? What's going on?" I felt hot tears spring up into my eyes and red heat rise up in my cheeks, though I didn't know why. Grandma lifted my hand up to her lips and kissed it. "Leave something beautiful everywhere you go, my darling girl." She took an embroidered hanky from her skirt pocket and softly collected my tears, and then directed my attention to 3 men working in the garden, trimming bushes and moving wheelbarrows full of flowering plants. The men, dressed in dark blue overalls, looked the same. I yelled out, "Hello, Mr. Silverman." As one, they stopped what they were doing and waved back in unison. They called out, "Hello, Miss Jane Julia." "Grandma, are they all named Mr. Silverman?" "Yes, my love, they are." We finished our walk silently, my young mind trying to take in what my eyes had seen. My legs were wobbly, and Grandma kept her arm around my shoulders, her warmth and her essence sending a thrill through my body. We returned to our oasis in the desert, our sanctuary where I felt safe. I had so many questions, but I was 7 years old, and the world was filled with curiosities. So I accepted my grandmother's world and thought she was wonderful. I didn't understand then that my grandma's garden was her sanctuary too, and the only place where she felt safe.
Thanks, Kathy. Let's move back over to Erin. I have no good segue here, actually, so I'll just ask you the question. So let's say that someone in this room is considering submitting to Mountain Life magazine. What are you currently looking for, and how should someone pitch to you?
Well, we are just putting together our summer issue. We'll be out early June, and I brought the last 4 winter magazines that I know of with me. So we'll be asking for submissions for our winter issue in the middle of summer. We haven't decided on a theme yet. We compared, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Mountain Life Media, there's Coast Mountains, there's us in the Rockies, there's La Vie en Montagne in Quebec, and then there's Blue Mountains. I'd say of all those magazines that ours is probably, I don't want to say the most soulful, but we tend to steer away from just people hucking their meat off jumps, and a little more environmental feel and more mountain culture, I think, than sporty, epic adventures. So that's something to keep in mind if someone would like to pitch something. Our range, I would really enjoy some stuff more from the interior, maybe even Kootenays, even though that's not quite the Rockies. We don't cover the Kootenays, but something in that neck of the woods. We have a lot on Jasper in the summer issue. Which is nice to not be so Canmore centric. But essentially just send me an email. It doesn't have to be, you can always tell when it's someone who's fresh out of journalism school, because you get a 500-word pitch with, that's not necessary. If you have an idea, even if it's just something off the cuff, you could just hey, I'm thinking about this idea, and we can just spitball back and forth and see if it can turn into something. So yeah, just send me an email, erin@mountainlifemedia.ca. Usually a paragraph. Some of the writers we have that work for us quite frequently will provide essentially their opening paragraph to get a feel for it. Tell me if you've got photos. We always want to know that. That is key for us. And it's just winter themed, essentially, right? It doesn't have to be, but if the photos are all going to look like summertime, that won't work for the winter magazine. And so we're usually about 6 months ahead of time. So our winter magazine will come out just before the Banff Film Fest or just after. They just changed that against my wishes. So we will be working on that this summer, actually. So any pitches should come in soonish. Really, I'll put out a call soon for them, right after this one hits the streets, really, we start.
Okay. Yeah. So give us an example. Do you have something to read to us that is an example of one that you really liked or
A pitch?
no, an article?
Oh, sure, but you said to bring one of mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay.
Do you have one of yours?
I do.
Okay.
I
All
do
right,
have
good,
one,
good.
and probably a lot of people in this room know who Leanne Allison is. And a few years ago, I don't think it was this last film fest, I think it was the one before, she did a film called Losing Blue. And we wanted to write an article about it. I'm hoping I brought the right magazine, I think it's in here somewhere. I might just have to flip back through this again, hold on. Has anyone seen Losing Blue? Did anyone see that at the, yeah, okay. It's very poetic. The way she speaks in it is very dreamlike. And as soon as I find it, I'll just read you the little intro about what the film is about. It's not that long of an article, so I'll probably flip by it. It'd be really embarrassing if I brought, oh, here it is, thank God. Okay. So I'll just read you the What'd you say?
Small writing.
Small writing. I think I'm still okay. So, Losing Blue, a film by directed by Leanne Ellison and written by J.B. McKinnon, and then I wrote a little piece about it, trying to keep the feel of her film. But I'll just read you the first little paragraph that describes what her film's about. Decades of research by a husband and wife team of liminologists from Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania has revealed the dimming of a Canadian icon. From across the globe, people flock to stand on the shores of impossibly blue-green mountain lakes. However, the blue is fading. Losing Blue, an artistic translation of the couple's scientific research and the newest film by Canmore filmmaker Leanne Ellison, will screen at this year's Banff Center Mountain Film and Book Festival. So that's what it's about, and I'll just read you a little bit. I didn't pick a stopping point, so we'll just read a little bit here. Okay. Blue, the most uncommon color in nature. The brilliant turquoise of Lake Louise, the opaque aquamarine of Peyto Lake, an unworldly glow firmly rooted in the geographical epochs of our planet. The interplay of nature and time delivers a spectacle, and people from around the world come to bear witness to what seems like an impossibility. How can a body of water deliver a cleansing breath? How can a thing so utterly terrestrial be so ethereal? You may know, or perhaps you don't, where these brilliant blues come from, or rather, where they go. The lakes are a time capsule for glacial melt, millennial-old bedrock ground down into fine rock flour by the movement of primordial ice. The trickle of melting glacier ice in the spring and summer then delivers the ground particles of bedrock to the lakes where the flour becomes suspended particles in the water column. Lake water absorbs the warmer colors of the rainbow spectrum, and the cooler blue and green colors remain. The glacier flour reflects these colors back to our eyes, scattered and brilliant, and at times making the ancient lakes appear to glow. I'll stop there.
Cool. So you can see, for all of you with poetic hearts, all things are possible, and styles. So you don't have to restrict yourself to some idea of what a magazine article needs to sound like in order to submit and have a conversation here with Erin. So it was a great choice, actually.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
And it is a beautiful magazine. I have to say, it's always just stunning to have on your coffee table. So grab a copy before you leave here today. The precious four of you can elbow your way there to grab one. Louise, over to you. This is just a process question. Anyone who takes time to read this book will know how busy you have been with the land, and then when you come back here, you're busy with work. So how did you find the time to write the book? How did the actual writing happen? What's your process?
Luckily, I worry a lot, so I'm up in the night. So I write for several hours, like from 3 o'clock in the morning. That was how I managed to fit in.
Wow, okay.
Maybe something to do with my age as well, meant I was more sleepless than usual. Yeah, I mean, that's a slight joke, but not really. Yeah, to fit it all in did require sort of burning the candle at both ends. But I wanted to, so it wasn't really a chore. It was such a in my mind, and you know, when you've got this strong desire to write, and it's flowing, you know, you don't feel tired. You just want to keep writing, and it's not really. It doesn't. I probably couldn't have gone to sleep if I'd wanted to, because the story was, you know, splurging out at me, and just kept going that way, really.
Fair, so it comes out whether you like it to or not. That does sometimes happen, you know, yes. Kathy, I'm curious, well, first of all, do you want to comment on your process? Do you write every day, or how did this book come to be?
No, I'm very whimsical. I might write at 3 o'clock in the morning. I might disappear in the morning time, like early morning. And actually, I would say that morning is my best time to write.
Erin, do you have a best time, a favorite time to write?
I kind of depends. Great, thank you. It kind of depends when I'm writing. I think magazine stuff I'm better late at night. And if I'm being sarcastic or if I'm being more poetic, maybe that depends. That probably came out in the morning. Sarcasm would be an evening writing session.
Depend how much alcohol has been
Yeah,
consumed.
maybe that too a little bit. Yeah. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, you've all had work out there. People have read your stuff. So, quick question, same question for all of you. And Kathy, since you have the mic, you can start down there. What has the response been to your book from those who have read it? Any?
I haven't had a lot of people that I don't know get back to me, although I know my book is selling online. But I have had the experience of my 25-year-old grandson marching into the house and saying, "Grandma, I love your book. I love it when you say this, and I love it when you said that." And so I knew that he really had read it. And little things like that, just that has just really made lots of my days. Yeah, family, friends.
Okay. Louise, how about you? What's the response been to the book?
It has blown me away, actually, because I think as a writer, sometimes it's hard to see your own writing in the way other people read it. And I think there's a little bit of imposter syndrome sometimes. So I'm always really surprised when people say, "Yeah, it was great, I love it. When's the next one coming out? I want to know what happens next." That's probably the biggest response I get. Like, wow, how on earth did you manage to do all that? Yeah, it's been very, very amazing, humbling, really. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Erin, what do people say about the magazine?
People seem to really like it. I obviously can't totally take credit for that. Our designer is amazing, and we have a lot of talented, creative people in the Valley for sure. I always find it funny that I work completely from home, and this is like a part-time job that I do from home as well. That's something I've created at like a desk in my bedroom is like out. It's always like a little nerve-wracking, right? Even just reading what I wrote tonight was like, I'm gonna say that in front of people. Yeah, generally get good feedback, I think. But yeah, it's always a little nerve-wracking, I find.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'm going to do a quick few final questions, very short, same question for all of you, and then we'll open it up to the floor here, so we still have time for snacks and purchases. So, quick top tip for writers. Erin, start with you.
I would say if you have an idea in your head, don't think you're gonna remember it in an hour or tomorrow morning. Maybe that goes for life in general, right? And the next morning you're like, I can't believe I forgot that golden idea. So yeah, write it down, keep something close by, and jot stuff down on.
Great tip. Okay. Louise.
I would say write every day, even if you don't feel like it. Get into the habit of writing something, and I don't want to swallow it myself, but it's really good advice because you build that muscle memory of writing, and it's very, very helpful over the long term. Because even something you think wasn't very good, you read it back, and then it actually can be used somewhere along the line. So, yeah.
Writing tips. Listen to the music. Well, listen to that voice that just keeps pulling you on. But I wanted to say, the other night, my husband and I were going into town, and I was driving. And I had a poem that was like, it was just like going to explode any second, and I pulled over and said, "You have to drive, because I'm writing a poem." Which has turned into a song, and I'm real happy about that.
Oh, awesome. All right, Kathy, we'll start this next question with you. How long did the book take to write?
Oh, it took between falling and breaking my neck, my mom passing away, and all the end-of-life things, and then falling and breaking my shoulder and right arm, and it took about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louise, how long did it take you to write your book?
Probably about 6 months.
Oh,
Wasn't
that's
very
good.
long.
Speedy.
Wow.
Yeah, impressive.
That didn't include like the editing part, but that was getting the first one done.
Yeah, okay. Erin, slightly different question for you, and that is, It's actually a two-part question. So part one is what's the most rewarding part of working with writers? But the second is what's the most challenging? What are your pet peeves about working with writers?
I think the most enjoyable part, and I hope other people will maybe hear or pass this along, is, and I keep thinking I need to reach out to the journalism schools in the city, working with young writers, because I was one of those, and you need to get samples. Everyone wants to see what your writing looks like. So helping someone through that process for the first time, I really enjoy that. Pet peeve is maybe someone who, oh God, let me think for a second here. Not having good photos, so someone tells me they're gonna have photos and then their photos suck. That's a tricky one. Working with someone with an ego is difficult. Somebody who thinks their writing is really good when you have feedback they don't want to hear. I've been told off by some names you would recognize if I said them out loud. Yeah, I find that difficult,
Yeah.
obviously.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, and before you pass the mic on, it'll be the same. Oh, actually, you guys have already answered this question. This is about sequels and future books. But for you, do you have a book in you? Oh, it's okay. We're good.
Sorry, I didn't just start.
Okay, we can exit out the side door, so we're good. But yeah, do you have a book in you? We've talked about your short work.
Oh, I tried to write a book during COVID. Well, I did, but that's just gone now. I sent it to an editor and stuff, and I'll do nothing with it now. I do have an idea to write, because I lost both my parents in the last few years. Something about, they both grew up in Winnipeg in the 40s and 50s, and maybe something about their lives before they met, because they met when they were like 18, and married, engaged when they were like 18 and 22. And they both came from like the north end of Winnipeg and had what sounds like they lived in a colorful time in Winnipeg, a music scene, and so maybe their lives before they met, and it like ends when they meet.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Interesting. Actually, Kathy, I promised to come back to you and your other project, because it's actually quite interesting. Nothing to do with bluestones and magic.
Yes, and I've been working on this other project off and on for several years. Vern and I live on a ranch just west of Calgary that was established, well, let me see, I'll just tell you very quickly. A young woman came from England to help her brother ranch. He gave up on the ranch, went back to England. She married the hired hand. And she was disowned by her family, like really, really literally disowned. Anyway, she ended up hiring my father-in-law, 22-year-old Floyd Pointen, and pretty much adopted him. He became her family. And that's why we live there. I've restored the homestead cabin on the ranch, and I ran that as a bed and breakfast for 10 years. Anyway, I am putting all of that into a cohesive story.
And one of the most remarkable things is that you didn't just inherit the ranch where you live now, but all of this woman's...
Yes, she left me. Okay, there was two Rachels. Rachel, who came from England, and then she named her daughter Rachel, so it did get a little confusing. But Rachel, who I met when I married Vern, she gave me her bookcase and her little sewing table, a few other lovely things. But her bookcase is full of all her family albums, her art portfolio full of watercolor paintings, like she had been a trained watercolor artist, and all these wonderful books from 1860-ish.
And journals and letters and just
Oh,
a
journals,
treasure trove of material, raw material, if you're writing a historical memoir connection to the land kind of project.
Yeah.
Quite a fantastic project actually underway, so watch for that coming. No magic at all in there other than the magic of real life
Yes.
that's very evident throughout the storytelling. Do you have another project, or are you focused 100% on the writing of the next chapter of your...
Well, other than the Bluestone too, I am going through all of my songs and putting them in order and doing a little editing because I really feel like I have to leave that in some order. I don't want to die and just have, a bunch of paper and thrown in the fire. My heart's in there.
Yeah, fair enough. Louise, do you have another project as well, other than the sequel to the cabin store?
Not formalized at all, but the memoirs are, you know, they're quite rigid in what they are, and that was my debut into writing, so I would like to do some fiction. Yes, that's my longer term plan, which will be perhaps centered around kind of homestead life and romance or something along those lines.
Oh, fun. All right, so lots to come from these writers, but before we let them relax and breathe out, questions from all of you. Anything to do with publishing, books, the authors, your future aspirations? Yeah.
I'm really interested, I'm self-published too, but I'm really interested in how you market your books.
So the question is about marketing self-published books and any tips, tricks, and strategies. So what have you done, both of you? Louise, you can start, you've got the mic.
Yeah, very challenging. Social media has been pretty good to developing a following on there. I've found has been probably my most effective marketing channel. Having a blog on my website, which then encourages people to sign up for newsletters so that you can keep in touch with people, has also been useful. Collaboration with local bookshops in small towns, you know, especially Cafe Books here, has been very supportive. And other small towns where people are kind of interested in the sort of genre of books, I found have been the best methods I've found.
Yes, all of that. Yeah, I'm trying to get into a regular blogging schedule. I'm working on it. And I did forget that I have another project going with my friend Brenda. We've both bought old, just totally by fluke, we bought mine is an old Barbie house. Hers is a wooden kind of ski chalet, which is, she's making hers into a Jane Austen house, and I'm doing something completely different. But we're going to blog about that, and then we're going to refer to each other and ask other people to, like, we're going to try to kind of do some networking that way through our dollhouse blogging.
That's probably the first time we've heard that combination phrase in this room, dollhouse blogging, but the collaborative blog project, I'm actually doing one right now with somebody. We're doing a daily drawing and blogging exchange, but it's sort of evolving. It's taken on a life of its own, and I suspect that if you do this for long enough, you slowly accumulate, a story begins to emerge that could well be reshaped into a book or something more formal. So I can see that could come out of two writers blogging about their dollhouse building experiences. So yes, take whatever it is, whatever you're interested in, wherever your passion lies, write about it, collect the stuff, and do something with it. It's all good. You will find your readers and your audience. Yeah. Other questions? Or actually, marketing. What do you do for marketing for the magazine?
What do we do? Mostly social media. I'm not involved in that part of it all, but we do, yeah. I mean, we have had a booth at the film festival before in Banff. I don't know what the other magazines do. We sponsor one of the awards at the film festival, some things like that. But yeah, mostly social media as far as I know.
Yeah, like it or love it. It's a reality. And even if you go with a traditional publisher, one of the questions they will ask is, how big is your platform? How many followers do you have? What is your reach? It has become just a huge part of your marketing strategy, no matter what you're working in, is social media. So start your blogs now, your Instagram accounts, and be consistent, get your message out there, start building your audience even before you finish your project, I think is a takeaway, sadly, for those of us who just want to write. You know, yes, Carol.
Louise, I'm interested in the editing process. Once you had a first draft, did you run it by other readers? Did you hire an editor? How did all that work?
So the question, and I'm doing this for the recording, is once the draft was done, what was the editing process? Did you use an editor? Did you run it by other readers, or what was your process?
I had a very zero budget basically, so I actually, a friend of mine was doing some copy sort of editing skills, so I did use her for that, which was extremely helpful because most of it I did myself, and it's so hard to do yourself. I would prefer not to. I like editing because I am actually a technical writer, so I do a lot of that type of work for other types of writing. So it's possible, but I don't think it has the depth of. It's not quite so independent by doing it yourself. So yeah, I would really recommend it if you can afford to get it done. But really, it's very expensive if you want something good to do it.
It is definitely a cost. Another suggestion is a writing group or a writing partner. Someone else who's taking their writing as seriously as you are, and do exchanges and so on can be really, really helpful. A good supportive writing group can also provide you with some early kind of conceptual, all the way through the process actually, can be really helpful. So if you don't have one, try to plug in or find some people in your community who are likewise serious about the writing is more important, I think, than whatever your particular genre is, and get that feedback. Park your ego at the door, just listen how things are landing with the reader, and you can be delighted and surprised and a little bit choked, but it's all useful feedback, so it's helpful.
There was something else I just thought of that I used. I actually used an AI editing tool to help, not with the writing itself, but just for grammar and sentence restructuring suggestions and things like that. That was really good because it's very economic to use. Not solely to use that, but as a guide, for speed and things. That was also very good. They're very amazing. These tools are so good now. Yeah.
All right, we probably have one more question, and then we have some time for chatting, snacking, and book ogling. Any other questions?
Yeah. I was wondering what keeps you all motivated to keep writing, day in, day out.
That is a great question. What keeps you motivated to keep writing? Kathy, what keeps you going?
Oh, the first thing I thought of when you said that is how do you not keep writing? Because even when I'm in bed, it seems like I'm always writing. There's always some think writing going on. And sometimes I just have to get it on paper. That's me. But then I will confess that weeks could go by and it doesn't even occur to me to write. I'm busy with other stuff.
Yeah. I would say exactly the same. If I am led in bed or I'm driving, there's just snippets of a description of, you see a little light on the mountains and it comes out in a sentence, or there's a small story comes, it really is always there. There's always something to write about. So yeah, everything you said.
I think my answer was a little different, just that I'm not writing in the volume that someone that's writing a book is. But I remember being a kid and thinking that I would be a writer, and now I find that I have to write things down. If something emotional is happening, or something big and heavy is happening, or if I've had an experience and I need to almost get it out of my body. That just sounds odd, but it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, But I actually find the physical act of writing is so painful. You to actually sitting at a typewriter or a computer and just I will do. Have you read there's a John Cleese book. It's I can't remember the title of it. It's about John Cleese on writing or something. And I'm like him. I'll sharpen all the pencils. I'll make my bed. I'll do some laundry. At some point, I'll sit down and start writing something.
How many people in this room keep a journal? Sometimes, a little, yeah, on and on. That can be very helpful, to just set yourself a goal, right? You're gonna write a paragraph every day. Start there, and tick it off on your calendar and see how many days you can get, gamify it. That can help some people. It helps me, actually, I'm a real gamifier. Hence the daily blogging thing that we've been doing has been really helpful, because I've got this other person that I've committed to that, no matter how late it is, I'm gonna get this stupid thing done. Even if it's short and terrible, it happens, and it happens every day, and then you get kind of into this rhythm. So for me, that's very helpful, but yeah. The other thing is the promise of a paycheck used to be very motivating for me.
It's very motivating.
I raised my daughter, single mom, and I did it as a writer. I don't know what I was thinking. But that's certainly motivating. You find some inspiration somewhere when you have to get paid and keep the lights on. So quit your job. That's terrible advice. Don't take that advice. But yeah, that is another thing. If you've got a deadline and you've got a commitment and you've made a pitch to an editor who says, get it to me by the end of next week, that's hugely motivating, actually. So yeah, deadline helps as well. Yeah. So actually, back to the writing group thing, if you meet regularly every week, every other week, knowing you have to show up with something is also really helpful. That's a deadline. It's a soft deadline, but it's actually does get you motivated. And often those submissions come in 2 minutes before the meeting starts, but they're there and something has been written.
Yeah.
Even if it's a bit rough around the edges, doesn't really matter. Okay, I think in the interest of time, we'll wrap it up there. I will say that we will be having another Fireside Chat in November 18th. Mark your calendars. We also, for those who like spoken word stuff, there's a poetry slam happening May 22nd at Arts Place. Come bring your wildest ramblings, musings, spoken word stuff. There's a poster on the side table there, our book exchange table. Don't forget, we want that empty. Please take everything with you. Take a book home. But yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much to everybody. Snack, drink, eat, be merry, and go talk to the authors, have a look at their books, sign them, buy them. I'm sure they'd rather you took the books home than they took them home. So thank you again for coming.